Well, I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
So do I. Bad news, Barrett is injured and probably will not be able to compete at Money in the Bank. Yes, my name is Tubby Emu. Breaking news coming out of the SmackDown tapings last night during a match that was involved, and Wade Barrett separated his shoulder, possibly at the hands of Jack Swagger. I don't know exactly. There's been conflicting reports, but WWE.com and WWE did confirm an injury to a top superstar, and that man is Bad News Barrett, potentially separated shoulder, which can take anywhere from a week, weeks, months to heal, which this is just really bad news for Bad News Barrett. Every time he starts to get on a big push, he starts to get injured, and my first thought going into Money in the Bank was that I thought Bad News Barrett had a chance. You know, I liked when at the time Miz had the briefcase and the U.S. title. I was kind of hoping that, maybe Bad News Barrett gets a title. Maybe Bad News Barrett has the Money in the Bank and the title, and he uses that as kind of a stepping stone. I know Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose kind of got big things going on in WWE right now, so they'd probably be a little above him, but I like Bad News Barrett, and I would love to see him get a push back in the main event in WWE. But both times he's been pushed now, if you guys remember the core, after Nexus broke up and everything that led into that, it seems as though he gets injured whenever something big is on the horizon, which really, really does suck for a man like Bad News Barrett, because every time he starts to get something going, he ends up being injured. Last year he was out how many months? I think like 6 to 8 months. Quite a long time with an injury. They repackaged him as Bad News Barrett on the JBL and Cole show. He eventually came back. He's been on somewhat of a roll. I've liked him. I thought he's done very good on the mic. And then now he gets hurt. And it seems like he's on this path of, I hate to say it, but like Dolph Ziggler, a guy who has, a lot of talent, a guy I love to watch. But I think injuries may eventually stall his push. And they may, I don't want to say necessarily it'll, force him out or necessarily hurt him anyway, because injuries are a way of life in WWE. It is something that, happens. But if I'm Bad News Barrett, now I've got to be thinking to myself, God damn it, I just can't catch a break. He's on this bit of a, and some people necessarily wouldn't call it a push. As an IC champion, doesn't necessarily correlate to being super successful these days in WWE. But I've liked what he's done. And I thought he was on a path to bigger and better things. And then now this happens. So now we don't officially know if he's going to be out for Money in the Bank. Maybe he tries to wrestle. Maybe he does a spot and he gets kind of thrown out of the way and, doesn't really get used as much. Will he get replaced? We're going to have to find out. Are they going to go with 6 men in a Money in the Bank? What's going to happen? Will they, whoever they add, you just know they're not going to win. So, if they just add somebody, it doesn't really necessarily make as much sense unless they put in a guy that can deliver a couple high spots because, Money in the Bank, the more spots, the better, in my opinion. It's one of the matches I love to see, the creative spots they come up with in WWE, whoever the agents that are planning the matches. So with B&B out, I don't want to necessarily say he was my favorite to win, but he was one of the guys in the top 3 I thought had a definite shot at potentially winning, because I thought he was a guy that could potentially carry the briefcase and, possibly go on to challenge for a title. I thought, I like what he's been doing. I thought he had a lot of potential, and it really does suck the fact that he's injured. So what do you guys think about this? Is Bad News Barrett kind of doomed? Is this kind of, doom and gloom for him? I mean, every time he starts to get on a bit of a roll, he gets injured. And look what happened with Dolph Ziggler. Every time he would start to get a push, he had a concussion or he had another injury, and it kept him out, which really sucks because he's a workhorse when he's not the champion or when he's not on a push, but the second he becomes champion, he goes and get injured. So I think if I'm WWE, a separated shoulder isn't necessarily something that's going to keep him out forever. I don't know if he necessarily has to get stripped. What's going to happen to the title? I mean, look at Daniel Bryan. He had to get surgery. He was out a while. I think B&B could still be around on TV with a separated shoulder. I don't necessarily think it's an injury that has to keep him off TV and you would, get him out of the spotlight. I think he could still come out and do some Bad News promos, and he could lay down some lines. So I wouldn't expect Bad News Barrett to be necessarily off TV, possibly, unless the injury was more serious than they let off to be. I don't necessarily think we'll see him at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. I think it's still a little bit early for that, especially if he just injured it on Tuesday. That's only going to be about 5 days to heal, and 5 days to heal really isn't, I don't think, enough time So I think when it comes down to it, Bad News really, really needs to catch a break somehow, some way, because this really does suck. The guy just came back. The guy debuted, wins the Intercontinental Championship, has been on, I think a pretty good run. I mean, he's put on some good matches. I've really enjoyed watching him. The Bad News gimmick, it started off slowly, but it's been working its way up. He's getting more cheers, boos, all that sort of thing. As ridiculous as his cape is to a lot of people, I like it. I think he's doing a lot of good, and it'll be very interesting to see what happens and where he goes from here. Does he drop the title? Does he lose it? And I think one of my biggest things is I'm just kind of bummed because I honestly thought he had a chance in Money in the Bank. I thought he would come out there and he would potentially be one of the guys that could win and eventually go on to cash in for, the WWE World Heavyweight title, because he's a guy that's good on the microphone. I think he's pretty good in the ring, and he really could have provided an excellent opportunity or an excellent, plan for WWE to put the briefcase on somebody. So now when you look at the Money in the Bank ladder match, I think that kind of changes up the whole dynamic of who could win, who could go on to potentially be the next briefcase holder. And it really does suck that he did get injured, because now you've got Dean Ambrose, Dolph, Jack Swagger, Kofi, Rob Van Dam, and Seth Rollins. And we all know Kofi. Pretty much no way Kofi's going to win, so you can pretty much throw him out of there. Jack Swagger, I'd be very, very shocked if they ever put something on him. Dolph, I'm not against Dolph getting it. I love Dolph. I think he's one of the hardest workers, if not the hardest worker in WWE. But my three top choices were Van Terminator, was Bad News, Dean, and Seth possibly winning the match. I didn't think Rob Van Dam really had a shot in hell. So it'll be very interesting to see where WWE goes from here, what they do, and how they go about it, because let's be honest here, if I'm Bad News Barrett, I've got to be a little disappointed, pissed off, because especially if he was planned, if he was the one that was going to win the Money in the Bank, and now he gets this injury, I couldn't even imagine it. Honestly, I really could not imagine how much that would suck to be the guy that was planned on winning, the guy that was going to go out there, steal the show, and then he gets injured 5 days before the taping. It just goes to show you that WWE injuries do happen. It's something that you have to deal with in WWE. Bullhammer to Rob Van Dam. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Was Bad News Barrett your favorite to win? Did you have somebody else? Is this going to hurt Bad News Barrett? What happens to the IC title? All those questions. Hopefully, when we get more answers, you might get more videos. Until next time, guys, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to check me out on Twitter, twitter.com/TubbyEmu, and twitch.tv/TubbyEmu for live streams, all that good stuff. And now with the Money in the Bank, and we only have 4 or 5 matches announced so far. Not a very big card so far. But until next time, guys, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you all later. But I'm afraid I've got some bad news.